This is Scott Richmond.
And Arnie Sherman.
You're listening to What Do You Know on Newstalk KGVO, AM 1290 and 98.3 FM. Arnie, good morning.
Good morning, Scott. How are you today?
I'm doing great.
You know, as you drive around our beautiful town of Missoula, you see an awful lot of new construction and new development going on.
A ton.
There's over $1 billion worth of it happening as we speak.
What's with a B, right?
A B. Not, yeah. You know, we're in the era of not T's and M's, but B's and T's.
Okay,
billions
good.
And trillions. And the largest single project that's ever been done in Missoula is currently halfway through development, the old Sawmill District project.
Wonderful.
You know, and there's condos and 700 residential units, and there's going to be student housing and senior living, and it's just an amazing development on the Clark Fork River.
Sure.
On 46 acres, and built a park. There's lots of stuff going on. And today we have Leslie and Ed Wetherbee, who are the creators of this project, coming in to tell us what's going on and what's going to happen in the future.
Exciting. And they're great developers. I mean, they had a vision, right?
15 years. They've been a labor of love for the last 15 years.
15 years.
Yes.
Okay.
We have them on today, and we're going to learn about all the things that are going on over there in that project.
That is wonderful.
And as you know, I have an interest in that because I've helped raise money. It's a disclaimer. I've helped raise some of the money for it, but I'm not involved in the development of it, and I'm an observer as an investor.
And let's talk about what it took to get this thing off the ground, because that was a big deal, actually.
Exactly.
It's it is probably the biggest residential development in Missoula
and the biggest
last
development project ever.
Ever.
Yes. I just wanted to highlight one more thing. Beside the old Sawmill District being a great place to live, it's going to be a great place to work. It's going to have a gigabyte of infrastructure. It's going to have great walking and biking trails and location for that. Sure. And in fact, I know one software company already that's going to move in there is using that location as a recruitment tool for its employees.
That's smart. That's a way to do stuff. Well, what a beautiful place to recruit people to.
Yeah. Live, work, play.
Live, work, play. Right after this, we'll be back with Ed and Leslie Wetherbee on What Do You Know? Back after this. Arnie, we are back.
And we're here with Leslie and Ed Wetherbee. How are you guys doing today?
Great.
So we began talking a little bit about this 15-year labor of love. So why don't you give us and our listeners the backstory on the old Sawmill District? You know, how it got started. And,
Ed's looking at Leslie. I'm giving you a blow-by-blow here.
Great.
She's looking at him.
Well, here we go. It began 15-ish years ago, maybe a little bit longer even. I was spending time in Montana from Colorado, doing some consulting work with the state, and was introduced to this great big donut hole here in the middle of Missoula that had a problem. And there was a fence around it. It was a super fun site. It had been abandoned for 20-some years.
Yeah.
And
46 acres, roughly?
Roughly, that's right. Right on the river with trails that had segments, missing segments, and some crime recently at that point. So there was a lot of interest in seeing something good happen with this.
You know, and I was born and raised here, so it was one of those things that you saw as just this horrible blighted area that we had such a beautiful city, and then you see this right in the middle of it. It was
How many generations, Leslie, are you?
Second generation Missoulian, about fourth generation Montanan.
Wow. So you see this incredible opportunity on the river. This is 15 years ago. Mm-hmm. And what are next steps? How do you put the wheels in motion? And I know it's a long story, but give us kind of the highlights.
Yeah, before that, I just want to mention, Ed had done a lot of venture capital. He'd been in the energy.
Right.
But you had never really been
in Denver,
a real estate developer, right?
That's true.
And now that you have been one,
well, I had been in the business of helping other businesses. And there were 60-some that we'd invested in, and we were very hands-on.
Ed was a project developer.
Right.
Sure.
We started a couple companies that were basically projects that involved a lot of real estate, but not residential or commercial kind of real estate. And so the backstory maybe continues that as we started to dig our feet into what was going on here, we realized it was a huge mess in terms of ownership and several layers of leases, long-term leases, and we had to figure all that out before we could do anything.
Sure.
And with the help of the Missoula Redevelopment Agency and other folks, we were able to unravel that. We got control of the land, and that began then a process of figuring out what you have to do in terms of, first of all, getting it annexed into the city. Second, figuring out what that whole environmental mess was about.
Right.
And then third, what do you do in terms of getting it ready to be able to sell lots or build something?
Right. This is totally different, like a greenfield site somewhere where you have to have some licensing and regulatory oversight, but it's not as much as this when you're taking on basically a Superfund site.
Well, and it was even more so than that, in that Superfund in this state at that point had either meant your local corner gas station that had spilled some fuel somewhere, or it meant the huge Superfund sites that we all know of here in Montana. So this was the first time that I think anybody had taken on the idea of a brownfield program that became or was to become a residential development.
Wow! And did it in doing that? I guess you had to have a different perspective and patience to kind of get this project done.
Leslie's laughing because the patience part is...
I remember how many emails I was always saying, like, you are the most patient person I have ever met, that, none of this is deterring you, and you're just like, keep pushing, charging ahead.
Sure.
Well, because it's such a big, complex project, and it's probably now a lot different than what you envisioned it 15 years ago in terms of the components and the vertical products that are now out there.
Yeah, in the rearview mirror, everything is a lot easier, right?
Yeah,
right.
When you're starting with a blank slate and you're trying to decide what to do, but honestly, we hired, and we had a lot of smart people around us with consultants and engineers and neighborhood planners, urban planners. So we didn't try to pretend like we could do this by ourselves. We really tried to make this special, but knowing we needed a lot of great help to do it.
So for our listeners, what is out there now, and then what's going to be there that isn't already, broken ground?
Yeah, so right now, one of the things that we do want to say, though, is that we had a lot of neighborhood charrettes that brought people in from the neighborhood to find out what exactly they did want to see. And then one of the ideas that came from that was having the park on the river rather than having a bunch of high-end homes on the river. That way, by putting Silver Park on the river, everyone gets the enjoyment of it.
Right, so you put 14 acres or so of the project,
yes,
of the 46
the biggest development on the river.
Yeah, we donated 14.5 acres to the city for Silver Park, and that has been completely built out and is being maintained by them, and it is beautiful.
And it's got a lot of use. It's not a dormant,
no,
just fixture or ornament. It's really used a lot.
We had my son's bar mitzvah there.
Is that right?
Yeah, we did. But does it boggle your mind to know that over next to Caris Park, there's a parking lot on the river? Like, that makes me crazy, is that's prime real estate and there's a parking lot.
Well, the unfortunate history of a lot of towns in the Northwest, and maybe all over the country, is that they treated the rivers as industrial backdoor infrastructure.
Well, it's the dump into
the dump,
yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And actually, a lot of the back of those rivers were right along the river, but when they kept dumping it, filled it up. So that land actually extends into the river now where it did not before. So all of Caris Park, that wasn't there originally.
Yeah, when you were
Real land.
Well, no, I mean, it was before I was born.
Okay.
So,
but it's been.
I'm not that old.
No, I know that. But when you were growing up here, there was a lot of industrial stuff along the river.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
It was
what
a
was it
different
like?
looking town.
Tell us. Take us back,
well,
Leslie.
if the wind blew the right direction, it did not smell very good.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, just from all of the different. We had the paper mill out at in Frenchtown, and then there was a mill at Bonner. There were several mills right in town, and seriously, it could get pretty bad sometimes. And so, and you didn't
all the pulp production,
right? Yeah. And where Caris Park is now, that was not a park at that time, and so just seeing how much it has improved and how much we've started embracing the river has made a huge difference.
Absolutely.
Sure.
Well, you guys have definitely been a big catalyst to that.
Well, thanks. So
and
now we go back to what we have there now.
Right.
So basically, when we started this plan of what we wanted to have, we have stuck pretty closely to it. We had a couple different times where somebody came in and wanted to buy 10 acres and turn it all into student housing, and another company wanted to come in and buy all the commercial space and turn it all into one commercial space. And that would have totally ruined our vision for what this neighborhood should look like. So that's when Ed and I decided that we needed to do this ourselves in order to really create that vision and build this cool neighborhood that we're expecting. Mm-hmm. And so that's one of the things that I feel the proudest of, is when people come and they look at it and they say, oh my gosh, you're building exactly what you said you would.
Yeah.
And it's a really good feeling. So right now, we have 3 different projects under construction right now. So Poly Square condos, that consists of 4 condo buildings. 2 of those are completed. One was completed in August of 2016. The second one was completed in mid-January of this year. We've got 2 more under construction. One will be completed in April of 2018, and the second one will be completed August, September of 2018. We also have, and those are beautiful condos with a really, great atmosphere, beautiful courtyard in the middle that people really enjoy. It's
who's buying those places?
We have a big mix of people.
Tell us about that.
Kind of started out that it was quite a few older people, and now all of a sudden we're really seeing a change in that. And not all older people. I mean, we have some who were retired, some who were empty nesters, some who were snowbirds, some who they just, we have about 30% that are using them as second homes, but not that, not a lot. So it still has a really cool feel to it. We have several who are professionals they're
Professors.
Yeah, we have professors, but we also have professionals who have gone off, or their kids have gone off to college. So they want something where they don't have as much to take care of.
Sure.
We also have a couple different families who are looking at it that, they've decided that their priority is not to be spending their entire weekend working on the yard.
Right.
And working on the exterior of the house. And they'd rather be out there doing stuff with their kids.
Sure.
And they love the proximity and everything in the neighborhood that there is to offer.
Sure.
And so that's really exciting.
So
and then we have
I was going to say we have 73 units when it's fully built out, right?
Correct.
And so 2 of the buildings are done, and most of the condos in those 2 buildings are already sold.
Yeah, we have 1 in the first building and 5 in the second.
And the
that
price
are still
ranges
available.
for our listeners?
So for those, it's $311 to about $375.
Mm-hmm.
Those are all 2-bedroom, 2-bath. And then building C, which we have, we still have another 7 or 8 months to go. We have 12 of the 20 units under contract already.
That's fantastic.
Wow.
So we're just shocked at how well it's going. We did some bigger ones in that one, but we still kept some of the 2-bedroom, 2-bath. And so, we have a few of each left. And it's just really exciting to see. And then D, we just released on MLS a few weeks ago, and we've got 3 of the 16, 3 out of 16 under contract already. And that one won't be done for a year. So it's and quite a bit of interest in the other one. So it's going really, really well. And then after that project, we have Cambion Place, which is also going to be just a great neighborhood amenity there. It's kind of what you call it, our centerpiece of Old Sawmill District. So it is a mixed-use building. We'll have a neighborhood market, a fitness center. We have a co-working lounge. It'll be Missoula's first co-working lounge, so we're really excited about that.
Huh. That'll be very cool.
C3 Work Lounge.
Yes.
C3 Work Lounge.
And we're getting a lot of interest about it already.
I'm sure.
Yes. And then we'll also have some office space for lease. We're in discussions with several different businesses about that. And then we'll have 69 high-end apartments for rent. And those are going to be great.
And the rents on those are going to be roughly...
They run about, I would say, $1,700 to $2,300.
And when you talk about high end, what does that really mean for our listeners?
So basically, it's going to have really nice finishes. We do a lot with sound mitigation. It'll have underground parking garage. It's just got beautiful, beautiful amenity space. So you come in, there's this beautiful lobby where you can hang out, sit around the fireplace, relax.
Wow.
And then you go into the great room, which is open to the second floor. It is absolutely gorgeous with this huge fireplace and tables and, soft seating, place where you can hang out with your friends and have a glass of wine. You can rent it for family
parties?
Actually, if you are a resident there, you don't need to rent it.
You don't need to, but
we also have, so that leads us into another amenity space, which we call the chef's kitchen. And so for those times when you want to do a dinner party for a bunch of friends or Thanksgiving dinner and your apartment's not big enough, you just, reserve the space. It's no charge for residents. And we have a 6-burner range in there with double ovens, microwave, huge refrigerator, wine cooler, everything you need there to hold your dinner right there.
Or if you're a business and you want to have a shareholder meeting, something like that,
sure,
would work really well.
And when are we scheduled to open
a radio station there?
When are the apartments available there?
So they'll be ready in about August of next year, August 2018 to move into.
And
the other thing that, can I just say one more thing about between those spaces is that we have retractable walls that you can pull apart so that you can actually use the chef's kitchen and that lobby or the great room to have a big function.
What's the capacity?
We're figuring about 100 people.
That's nice. They're
It'd make
the
a-
winter bar mitzvah.
A really great Grizzly Bobcat venue for
Yeah,
that away
perfect.
game or a Super
would be
Bowl
perfect.
party.
Let's do a quick ID. Our guests are Leslie and Ed Wetherbee from the Old Sawmill District.
And there'll be 69 apartments. What's the interest so far? Even though we're far out. I mean, we're talking about August of 18 or 19, right? August of 19.
Arnie, we're going to have a VIP pre-launch event before too long, really to kick this whole thing off and let a certain group of people around town know what it's about. But at the same time, we're going more public with this. And we've got a handful of folks who are kind of on our inside list who already have decided they want to be there, and we're about to let them pick their units. And back to your question about what makes them special, well, this is really conceived after this notion that there are some people out there who could easily afford to buy something if they wanted to,
Right.
but have decided for whatever reason they want to rent for a year or maybe the rest of their lives, whatever it is, but they want a great place to live. So these are homes. These are more than what you might think of as a transient apartment.
Right. And I think there's more and more literature and articles written about people, at a certain age who do not, 50, who don't necessarily want to own anymore. The rental pencils out much better in terms of use of available capital.
And there may be some young professionals who just want to stay flexible.
We see that a lot, too, with people who are maybe moving here and they're not sure where they want to live yet.
Right.
Or they think they want to live at Old Sawmill District, but they'd like to just try it out for a year. And so
that's perfect.
And then others who are waiting for, say, if they're going to be waiting for their condo to be finished or a townhome or something, this would be, and their house sells right away, this would be a great place for them to move into in the interim.
Well, doing all that construction that you're doing, how do you find, all of your talent, your construction, your resources? Because that's a lot of resources to have two buildings going simultaneously.
Well, actually, we have 4 going simultaneously.
4?
Yeah.
So we have
So where are you importing them from?
both Poly Square buildings, Campion Place, and our student projects.
Yeah, we're gonna
we
get to
didn't
that
talk
in a
to
minute.
that one
We
yet,
haven't
about
talked
that
about
one
it.
yet.
So where are they all coming from?
Everybody that comes to work with us has to bring a hammer to work.
Yeah.
But are they all local? Is it all local units, construction groups that are
Yes.
doing this?
So our general contractor is Quality Construction on this.
Okay.
So they actually hire out all the subs, but I believe that they are
That's why you can't get a good one.
I can
because they're all-
imagine
They're working
that's
for us.
I can imagine that's
guys.
a challenge these days with
Well,
as much
no,
work
it
that's
is.
going
It's
on
not
around
only
town.
a challenge, but as you know, with all the other projects going on in Missoula, the cost of construction, I know, has gone up from when it was conceived to what we're actually building now,
Oh, yeah.
right? And you got to factor that all in. People talk about affordable housing and issues like that, but in a place like Missoula, where you got 10 or 15% increase in 1 year or more in construction costs, you certainly have to, you can't take a loss on building a development this big, right?
Well, that's certainly part of the landscape here in Missoula, and I think around the country, in many places. So yes, it's a challenge for us all to continue to make a nice product, and at the same time keep it in a price range that people can afford to buy.
Sure.
Mhm.
It's at whatever level it is. There's only so many people at that price point able and willing
Sure.
to buy a product.
Sure.
When
And it's a big topic of conversation in Missoula. I mean, when you talk about we have the mayor on, and the one or two thing, the number 1 or 2 thing that always comes up
Right.
is affordable housing in Missoula.
Always. But were you guys doing any, I know when Nick Chakota built the Kettle House Amphitheater, he actually did a lot of research going to other communities and looking at other facilities. Are there places that you kind of have looked at over the years and said, let's model it after this, or let's take a bit of this and bring it to the Old Sawmill?
Wow, great question. The answer is yes. We I lived for many years in Boulder, Colorado, but really traveled quite a bit. And we saw things when Leslie and I would travel. We'd go to a son's wedding in Santa Barbara. We saw something there that, wow, that's cool. Let's see if we can integrate that somehow. And and there's some things in Europe that would be great in terms of the old urban villages, or even the big cities that have that walkability that's so cool. And of course, there's great things that are happening in Seattle or Boise, and smaller markets as well as bigger markets. So we're trying to assimilate a lot of cool things, what we think are cool things, and bring them to Missoula, sometimes for the first time.
Sure.
Which is amazing. And what would you like to see this happen also within the city that would even further enhance your vision? Because obviously it's not all in your control. Would you like to see more development on the river in terms of retail space or commercial space or residential space or more parks, more green fields, things of that nature?
I think Leslie might have a different answer, but for me, it's most important for us, and I really am a big believer that we need to have a strong urban downtown. And yes, there's lots of other cool things going on in other places in town, but we have to have a really strong, vibrant downtown. And that will, hopefully we're contributing because we're just a short walk from the urban core.
Well, that's what's driven things in Bozeman, right? I mean, people go there to be downtown when they're visiting.
It's got to be a comfortable, safe place for people to go and to have a number of different places where they can enjoy themselves.
And you have to have a well-lit walk from your properties to town where people don't feel, there's no fear or threat.
Yes, and it is lighted the whole way. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It really, and that's the thing that I think we have to think of as a community is that, we're all trying to contribute to a community where it's safe and people feel comfortable there.
You walked from the old sawmill downtown a week or so ago. How long did it take?
To downtown?
Yeah.
Oh, I think I was at lunch in 10 minutes.
Yeah. I mean,
depends
very close.
on where you want to be. You can be there in 5, and if you're a few more blocks,
but what's
10.
nice is they put the cidery in right across the way, right? Which is a great thing to have.
Absolutely.
That could be your first, right? When you walk over that bridge,
Sure.
that could be one of your, was it California Street?
Yeah.
So that's a nice way to get into town, but now you got to create that comfortable kind of walk from there into the heart of downtown.
Right.
Right?
We have several different
routes
you could take.
Right.
Right now, most often we go over Orange Street, right into downtown. It's very quick. The route you're talking about, it certainly works. Or go down the riverfront trail, just another bridge, and walk over on Higgins. It's a number of different ways.
Sure.
You're right. That is a beautiful walk.
Sure. So tell us about the student housing project.
Okay, we're pretty excited about it. It's a product that has gained a lot of traction around the country. We actually started working on it, had it in our plans from the very beginning, and we, for different reasons, we were delayed a bit in actually being able to start that construction. But it's the kind of thing that has added one more arrow into the quiver for universities to say, here's another cool kind of place you can live in if you come to the University of Montana. And we focus on the fact that it's secure, it's safe, a great place to study with your friends, and yet we have all of the recreational amenities right outside of our back door.
So U Global, as it's called, it's got 213 beds as it's being designed now, and they're set up in an interesting configuration. You want to talk about that a little bit?
Sure. As in many of these around the country, it's set up as what's called a pod, where you have there are different variations of this, but generally you have a shared living space, a shared kitchen, and then 2, 3, 4 bedrooms around that. Many times they have their own private baths, which ours do. And so it creates that bit of privacy that you have with your own bedroom, your own bathroom, but again, kind of a communal experience with your other friends and students that you share your great. Plus, any of these kinds of projects typically have a lot of other communal space, where it's a big great room or private study areas or whatever it is. People can get off and get some privacy and study or hang out or whatever.
Is there any trepidation given the challenges the university has had with enrollment? I noticed today they announced that the freshman enrollment was up slightly, but overall enrollment's down a little bit. Is that a big problem for you guys?
No, I think we came into this basically knowing that and thinking that we were at the bottom of the market in terms of enrollment, that we believe very strongly that it will pick back up again, that the university is healthy. Yes, it could be better, but I think it's on the right track and good things will happen. But nonetheless, these kinds of projects, and as you know, there's another project in town that is
Rome
that wants to do something similar. Together, we represent a very small percentage of the student population that lives off campus. So we're not trying to dominate the scene in any way. It's a very niche-y product, and I think there'll always be, and it's proven in other other cities, and certainly has worked well in Bozeman as well, that there's always a small part of that student market that likes and can afford this kind of a product.
Well, you're talking about 1 or 2% of the student population. And there's other products out there. The Kaiman recently wrote an article about the other student housing project, critical a bit about the cost, that it was too luxurious. And because it was luxurious, it was pricing itself too high for a typical Montana student. You know, how is the pricing at U Global going to fit in with the university marketplace?
Good question. And that really depends on, well, the university marketplace, as you say that, is really an aggregation of a lot of different products, right? There are price differences on campus that probably range, spread by 50%. So you really have to say we're comparing ourselves to this or to that. But yes, I would not try to argue that we were competing with on-campus space. This will be more expensive. By how much? Maybe 15% on one product, maybe 50% on another product. But it's new, it's different.
We're providing a different product than what's
right.
available
It
now.
also enhances the overall value of the university.
exactly.
By having it.
When you were a student, like when we were all in school, you could stay in the dorms, you could live in somebody's house, you could get your own apartment,
Right.
you could get a house and share it with. There were lots of options out there, and this offers, as you mentioned, a state of the art, unique niche product that you're looking for 200 residents on an ongoing basis at a 12,000 and growing student base.
Right.
So I mean that seems to have enough workability built into it.
It's Missoula is fast becoming that stop between Seattle and wherever else back east. I mean, you just don't want to leave. The things like this are keeping people here longer.
Sure.
Right? When they because I'm on the tourism board on Destination Missoula. And you think about like what you're doing with the old sawmill and what Andy Holleran's doing with the hotel downtown and the other project, the Rome project, and then the Triangle
Riverfront
Triangle. And you're realizing that this is not a place just to get off and get gas, but it's a place you can eat, dine, shop, live.
Right.
And so that's what we want, is to bring people off the highway who are in between places and like, yeah, this is a nice place to settle.
Sorry, go ahead.
We have a lot of people who came here to visit and just fell in love with Missoula.
Right.
And decided they wanted to be here.
That's how I got here.
We spent a lot of time selling Montana and selling Missoula. And there's always that group of people out there who say, don't do that. Don't let anybody else come into our great place. But that's not how things grow, and that's not how things work. And in fact, we just came back from a board retreat in Redfish, Idaho, and met several very nice young people who told us how wonderful they'd drive for, 5-6 hours to come to Missoula for a nice weekend and listen to great music and have a good time. And that's a great testament to what we've got going here.
Well, on one of our
100%.
other shows, we had Michelle Huey from Vim and Vigor, and she hired a senior Amazon executive who got tired of living in Seattle and found her job advertisement on Craigslist, Missoula.
Yeah.
And said, if I can get a job, doing what I'm doing in Missoula, I'd rather be in Missoula than Seattle.
Her recruitment costs were zero. I mean, that's incredible. And so, but the other interesting thing is that you're right. So as all these interesting things happen, it'll attract new companies. It'll attract people who want to bring their company to Missoula, which I know the MEP and the redevelopment group are doing and others are doing. Was that part of your vision when you started this? Were you thinking about what the overall economic impact would be with this project? And is that how you sold it to the city and to the other, it's a two-part question.
Certainly there's a lot of different angles and there's a lot of different folks out there who have interests in different aspects. And so for example, economic development folks certainly have job creation as one of their metrics. And I'm happy to say we just had 2 independent studies done by economists, and the work that we have in the pipeline right now under construction is they have said generates over 1,000 new full-time jobs.
Wow!
And so it's great. And you can't count that many boots out there right now, but there's a heck of a lot of people working and are directly and indirectly affected by this kind of development.
So we have Poly Square with 73 condos. We have U Global with 213 beds. We have Camion Place with high-end apartments and 69 apartments and then mixed-use real estate, commercial and residential. We have already opened and doing well the Dog and Bicycle Cafe. You're going to have a market, but you're also now going to do a gastropub there. So
Right.
tell us about that. Now you're in the restaurant business.
We're
What's
really
going on
excited.
there?
So is it your restaurant or is it?
It is.
Wow. And tell us about that.
Well,
Leslie's smiling.
you know, we were under contract with another brewery for a while and extended, and then things changed for them and they had to back out. We were in discussions with another one and that one didn't work out. And so about that time, a restaurant beer and wine license came available and I called Ed quickly and said, "What do you think?" And he said, "Let's do it."
Wow.
Kind of
Of
like,
course, you don't have enough to do.
but we really
That's not
needed
inexpensive
to
getting
have
a license.
No,
No,
it's
they're
not.
Full
And we
liquor?
no.
No.
No,
Beer and
okay,
wine.
okay.
Beer and
good.
wine.
All right.
Beer and wine,
Oof,
And we have a great friend who we know who has been in the restaurant business for a long time, and he has always wanted to be at Old Sawmill and do something down there, and he's opened 7 different restaurants in Montana and California. So we called him up, and he was really excited about it. So he's been working pretty hard on that.
That's
with
great.
some guidance from us, but we just decided we needed it for our residents who live there, and for ourselves, and for
and it will
started-
become a destination.
We
Yeah.
started out with this concept of a neighborhood tavern,
Mm-hmm.
family-oriented neighborhood tavern, and that has expanded a bit, but still has that as its roots. And we think of a great amenity for the Old Sawmill district, but certainly for others around the town.
Listen, I fantasized when I was up at the Ranch Club. I'm like, boy, the Ranch Club, if they would just stay open a little longer, the restaurant, you could live there and you didn't have to get in a car to drive home. That's what
Yeah.
you're doing.
that's what we're doing.
You can walk there and
Yes.
walk home.
Forget about DUIs.
Right.
Forget
But you
about
can
all
also
that.
walk downtown in 5 to 10 minutes.
Yeah, you
Yeah,
can.
that's
All
the other
that.
thing that
Yeah.
we have a lot of people who. In fact,
I love that.
One of our people who moved here, they moved from Austin, Texas, and they arrived in May, filled up the tank of gas, and after 3 months, he told me he'd only used a half a tank of gas.
Is that right? Oh, so you're saving gas too.
Well, particularly
Yeah.
in the nice weather, you can bicycle, you can walk.
We
you
don't,
can
you don't
jog.
have to get in your car all that
Right.
often.
Right. They were here visiting
stinks getting
in
your car.
January when we had that really, really cold weather, and they were out walking every day and loving every minute of it.
Oh, it's amazing
So,
over there.
Yeah.
So are you seeing that other builders in the neighborhood are starting to take cues from you guys, like, buying old properties behind the old sawmill and redeveloping and putting some new architecture there? I mean, are you influencing the whole neighborhood?
Yes, and
They're smiling again.
well,
I
I'm
have- this is a-
smiling. We're
Go
both
ahead.
smiling. It's one of those things where we, on the one hand, we are proud of the fact that folks have decided that this is a nice place and will be a great place to live, and they're taking their own properties and fixing them up. Property values are increasing. That's great. If there's a downside to us, that is that other people recognize a good thing and creating a little more competition for us. So it cuts both
marketplace.
ways, but we're happy to see it. It's great.
So what,
Right.
we only have coming out of the ground about half of what we're going to have there ultimately. So what are the other things that we haven't talked about in terms of what's on the drawing board?
Got quite a bit. The
Lifestyle
biggest,
building.
the one that's most immediate is directly across the street from Cambium. We're calling that the Lifestyle Building. We have the ground floor already leased up. It is in the final design stage right now, and we hope to break ground late this year.
We have a hair salon, an esthetician, and a personal trainer who they will both also have
Arnie's looking at me like we need
massage
the hair.
in
You and I
there.
don't need the hair
No,
salon.
no, I was looking at you because I was going to say,
We need a radio station.
by the time it's done, you'll never want to leave, right? Everything
Right.
is going to be there
Everything-
that you need.
as long as pedicures are below $30 for men, okay?
So we got the lifestyle building.
Okay, it's Lifestyle Building. Then the next big project is what we call our 55-plus
Uh-oh.
living, learning project. And we're working with the university in their extended learning program, lifelong learning program, and talking to some folks at the Molly program, generally to create an environment of lectures and off-campus a learning experience.
Sure.
But it's we're projecting right now that'll be plus or minus 150 units, and we'll add another dimension to this neighborhood fabric we have.
Mm-hmm.
And then we have another area that we're right now we're in design for a thing we're calling warehouse flats. It is we're trying really hard to hit a price point of about $240,000 for condominiums, which is given Arnie what you said earlier about construction costs is really hard to do.
Mm-hmm.
But we're looking at that, and then more townhomes and flats, and certainly really more apartments and more condominiums. And then we have a large area that is slated for primarily commercial, but it will be mixed use in terms of street retail, office, and then maybe residential on the top floor.
Okay.
We're hoping to have at least some single-family residential down there too. So the townhomes will be nice because they'll be, like Ed said, the brownstone type. So you have the big front porches but some people just really want to have that little bit of private yard where they can leave their dog out during the day.
Sure.
Yeah.
We've talked about doing some cottage style. So they're small family townhome or small family homes, but they're kind of clustered. Yeah. So you have a little bit of yard with it. And then they're clustered, so they share a courtyard. We may do some patio-style homes, which may be some bigger homes, but still small yards.
It's amazing the vision down there. I mean,
there's one more that I'm really excited. Actually, there's several more, but one more I really want to mention, and that's we don't have a name for it yet, but it's a neighborhood inn.
Yeah, I think that's really cool.
Yeah, it's not meant to in any way compete with or be anything like the other hotels that are being talked about in town. This is let's call it a 20-room neighborhood inn where somebody's family comes to visit. They don't have enough room in their condominium, or they don't want to. You stay over there, or you've got a commercial tenant that has business guests coming into town, and we can put them up right across the street in a very quaint, nice little place, and that's our plan.
I like to say it's for that once or twice a year when you need that extra guest bedroom.
Right.
Why pay for that all year?
Well, that's a common conversation, when you want to downsize, right?
Yeah.
And you're trying to figure out how to use your space in the best way. And you say, well, we're going to have guests, so we can't make that an office because and you only have guests 5-10 days a year. So this is a perfect addition, right? It's an addition to your downsized home.
It is a perfect.
We call it resizing, Arnie.
Resizing.
Right sizing.
So you're really building. You're building a neighborhood. That's what you're building. Is a neighborhood. And
basically a pedestrian neighborhood.
Yeah, it's incredible because to think about being able to do that in a town like Missoula, that's the challenge. I mean, not that Missoula is difficult necessarily to work with, although I'm sure there were challenges, but really supporting that type of vision is, I think, unheard of. I mean, I think it just speaks to who you guys are, but also our town a little bit. I mean, it's really, everyone took a bet. It sounds like a gamble a little bit, or a little bit of a risk in doing this. Probably more than a little bit. But I think it's great.
Well, I want to speak to that because it in certain circles, it's no secret that we've had challenges and in some cases not seen eye to eye on how things should be done. And that's in part because our codes here don't quite fit what
was contemplated, really.
What's being contemplated. And then there's people who, didn't have the experience or seen exactly what we were talking about. But I want to say on the most part, we had people who were very interested and very helpful and supportive. They had to sometimes jump through a few extra hoops with us.
Right.
And we could not have otherwise done that. So,
well, and this project,
that's good to hear.
Frankly, requires a lot more coordination and cooperation with local government than somebody who just bought a piece of land that's been zoned and they're going to build something.
I think that's our biggest struggle is that excuse me, when we see another project where basically the streets and the infrastructure, the water, sewer, electricity, it's all there already.
Right.
That probably saves somebody 2 years of development and a lot of money. Where we still have to do all that.
You had to do all that, right?
The other thing, though, is that we're putting a high density and urban infill where it needs to be.
Right.
And it's exciting to be able to come in and just, it's not often that you get a blank slate right in the center of town.
Right. That's what
that.
really is critical here. There's very few towns the size of Missoula that would have 46 acres right on the river. 5 to 10 minute walk from the heart of everything available to mold the way you wanted to mold it.
Where do you guys think the next, you're busy with your thing, and I know your sights are set and your focus is on that, but where's the next big area of Missoula, in your guys' opinion, that you think is ready for development or redevelopment?
Good question. There still are a few places that we think are ripe for improvement. I'd rather not say where they are right now because we've got our eyes set on a few places.
Okay.
But I'm a big fan of continuing to build out the core.
Mm-hmm.
I think a strong core city really supports and makes the rest of it work well.
Yep, I would agree with that.
I mean, we have, I comment, and people who visit comment as well. There's very few places in the country where you can just get off an interstate and within a minute you're in downtown of a city. Most places just a few miles drive and you may not, but we're right there. And the idea of building what's right there connected is really, I think, a good vision for Missoula.
Yep, our guests are Ed and Leslie Wetherbee of the Old Sawmill District. We've had a good, long conversation. Let's take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll have some final words. Okay, we are back.
So as you're looking out to your audience that that you're trying to attract to the Old Sawmill District, what's your key message about the project, about Missoula? What are you saying to folks?
Well, I think we just want to say Missoula is a great place to live. And we think people should really, check it out. If they're not here, come visit it. See what you think. Bring your family and friends here. And, we have places that are available right now, but we have a lot of stuff that's going to be available in the next few years. So it might not be a good fit right now, but it could be in the future.
We'd mentioned that before you came out of this, when what you're contemplating now is complete, it's $250 million. It's the largest development project that's ever been undertaken in Missoula. Right. We give a lot of kudos to Ed and Leslie for taking that on. I'm not so sure 15 years ago you knew what it was going to be like, in 2017. How do people get a hold of you? How do they look at the products that are available? What's the best gateway to the Old Sawmill?
So the best thing would be to contact me. You can call at our office, 406-203-3015, or email me at leslie@oldsawmilldistrict.com. You can also check out our website, oldsawmilldistrict.com. Condos are at polysquare.com. There's a list of all of our projects on our website.
It goes to your
you can go straight to those websites.
Plus, you have a Facebook page.
Right. We have a Facebook page, Instagram, Twitter.
All the social media things that you have to have these days.
Right.
How many folks walk in the door that are not from Missoula, that are coming in now?
Quite a few. We actually had one couple who they had decided that Florida was just getting too violent and they'd had enough of it and they were moving to Montana. And so they made their stops. They stopped in Billings. They went to Bozeman, Butte, Helena, Great Falls, and their last stop was Missoula. And so they, from immediately driving in, came straight to our project and took one look at it and said, "This is it." And they signed the paperwork.
That's fantastic. But I think that's the stories you like to hear.
Yeah.
We also have a lot of folks, most folks, I would say, have a connection to Montana. They lived here once before. They're coming back. They have children who live here, and they want to come to be closer to their grandchildren, or they're coming to school, or whatever it is. There's something about Montana that draws people back.
Sure. Right.
And there are quite a few who already live here that just decided that they don't want to have to take care of a home and a big yard anymore.
And it is,
and they want that
besides
community.
People that are coming here in the prime of their career, it is a great retirement community, and university towns have become high on the priority list of places to retire. And just as you mentioned the crime in Florida, you're going to have the other issue, which is weather. I mean, I was watching a show the other day, just quickly, where there were a couple of meteorologists talking, and they said the oceans are warming. That's going to produce more, more moisture in the atmosphere, and you're going to see more hurricanes and tornadoes and other sorts of things. And places like Florida are going to get hit more and more. Missoula is going to be beachfront property one of these days.
The four of us are really smart for living here.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
We're so smart for living
I heard that climate change was going to affect Montana by making it slightly warmer.
Yeah,
so maybe that's good.
Yeah, it's going to be warmer, and it's going to be more, maybe more moist, and it's not going to have the weather problems that you're seeing, back in the coastal areas. Ed, Leslie, it's a pleasure having you on the show today.
You guys are
Arnie, thanks, Scott.
Awesome guests. Thank you so much. Arnie, I will see you next week.
As always, talk to you soon.
Thank you for listening to What Do You Know?
I can't wait for the next show, Scott.
I'm excited too, Arnie. If you'd like to suggest a guest, send me an email at scottrichmond@townsquaremedia.com. We'll see you next week. And thanks for listening to Newstalk KGVO and newstalkkgvo.com.